And I think we're ready. We are live on Facebook. Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome. This is Faiza. I am delighted to have you here, and I'm honored to have my special guest, Barnet Bain. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Anytime. Many of you are familiar with Mr. Bain and his work. Some of you are not and have been watching the movie the last week in preparation for this wonderful evening. And he needs no introduction to many of you, but I will introduce him regardless. Mr. Bain is a filmmaker, he's a writer, he's an educator. To me, he's also a wisdom teacher, and he's also...
It's your first time live. Welcome. Welcome. I know you're from Northern California. So happy to have you with us. My good close friend. So happy to have you with us. Hi, honey. Welcome, honey. All right, everyone. So shall we jump in? I feel like there was something else. Oh, I was just going to say for everyone in the States, I hope you all had nice holidays. Don't know.
I think Hani needs to mute.
Hani, do you hear me? That was fun. Hani, do you hear me? I think she's on mute now. Woo.
Hi, sorry, I muted.
That's okay. That was still great. We love hearing from you. So everyone, again, Mr. Bain, as you know, he's an educator, he's a writer, he's a filmmaker. He's one of my wisdom teachers. I absolutely adore his wisdom, and especially how profound that is for us in this day and time. He's also has a few films that you might know about. One being Milton's Secret, which most of you have already watched this week. He's also, one of his films is the Academy Award winning What Dreams May Come, an Emmy Award nominated Homeless to Harvard, and the Celestine Prophecy. I have not seen the last one, so that's on my bucket list. And he's author of a book I'm reading right now called The Book of Doing and Being, and I highly recommend it, especially during these times. Welcome, Mr. Bain. I am looking forward to a time. I'm excited. Welcome on board.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you everyone for joining us tonight. I am wide open to go together in any direction that you would like to explore. But I'd love to start, if we could all take a few breaths, maybe 5 very deep breaths, not abdominal breaths. High breaths, charged breaths, right in behind your collarbone. High in the lungs, deep, 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 deep. 5. Ready? Just follow me. Full, full, full. And one more. And one more. Now gently breathe in through the nose. Gentle exhale through the nose. And pay attention to what you're feeling in your body. Notice if there's a little buzzing. Maybe there is, maybe there's not. Just notice. So when we talk about presence, presence doesn't happen in the head. It also happens in the head. But presence is an at-one-ment, an atonement with everything. And it starts with the body. So when we breathe and we activate those energy centers, we move the energy through the body with intention. We begin to feel the buzzy feeling, the tingles, the swirl, whatever it is, however it shows up for you. Some things happen. One is we begin to reconnect with all that is. And another, particularly miraculous in these stressful times, is that we reduce the thought stream. And with some practice with these breaths, initially we do 5 breaths, 10 breaths, 20 breaths, starts to get a little dizzy and lightheaded. Make sure your feet are grounded, flat on the floor, that you're grounding. You can pause. But our bodies are so estranged. They're so not used to being open channels of energy that we become lightheaded. And as we restore those and open those energy channels and restore that relationship to energy, it happens very, very quickly. If we were to tonight, and we won't, but maybe we'll get together live at some point after all of this period of isolation, maybe we'll get together in some live environment and do some work, including the breath work that very quickly opens these channels. They open very quick. We could move from being dizzy at 5, 10 breaths to taking 100, 150 breaths in about 40 minutes time. And then what happens is the whole body goes like hummingbird wings, and that is the natural state. It is not the natural state to be unaware of our bodies, which I'll confess, for the most part, I am unaware of my body. The natural state is to have an open channel and to feel the thrum of life. As the poet said, I am the body electric. That is not a poetic metaphor. That is a documentary statement. And that is where presence is born. This does not have the equipment. It's not calibrated to be present. It's not designed to be present. It's a gift from the divine to slice and dice reality, but not to be present with it. And so when we sometimes confuse mindfulness with being moving our consciousness even more up above the eye line, as opposed to being aware from an embodied state of the themes and patterns, which are very few. Very short playbook here. It's got a very, very short menu, fish or chicken. It's always the same. When we become aware from an embodied state of the traffic of thinking and feeling, which is always from the past, always. With the exception of when we're standing in the road and we turn around and a truck is coming. or a wild animal. That is the only exception to every thought and every feeling. They're usually thoughts about feelings. They're always from the past. 100% of the time. Something happens that is the same as, familiar, or similar, or remotely similar. And it's picked up like radar by the body. And it triggers the memory banks. Both the somatic, the body held memories and traumas, and the hard drive, the file cabinet. And out comes a memory, and we haul it into the present, we make a narrative about it, and we make choices based on it. This is called karma, by the way, in the East. In the West, it's called, depending on the degree of it, it's called certain kind of psychological conditionings, or it's called normal, but it's not, it's anything but normal. Anyway, that was a lengthy introduction. I don't know, something just, I had an itch and something called to say that that needed to be said. That could either be my own vanity or real, I'm not sure, but let's move on.
That's exactly what the moment needed. And thank you for that opening. It was, I try to open with that when I can, and it's not always coming naturally for me. But when we were evolved and you really called us into the moment with the breath, it was centering. And it's so important when you've made the time to be somewhere to actually be there. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. I want to just answer a question from a Danuka. Why from the upper chest? So when we breathe from the diaphragm, I never know whether it's the autonomic or the sympathetic. I always mix them up. So when we breathe from the diaphragm, we are relaxing. We are calming the system. When we calm the system in that way, we are actually not calming the cognitive function. You're only calming the body. You're not calming the cognitive function. So it's going, it's still dredging up everything remotely the same as whatever the thought is, whatever the feeling is, whatever the constriction is. When you breathe from on top, that's called a charged breath. That is a kind of breath that is generating chi, that is moving energy through you. So at first, it alarms the system. It says, wake up. It alarms the system. And then very quickly, the system all by itself says, oh, this is the way we're supposed to be. This feels really great. This is healthy. I am present. This is diminished. I am now my consciousness. The seat of my consciousness moves like an elevator down the shaft from being all up here, down the shaft, and you can feel it move. Maybe we'll do it again a little bit later. You can feel it move down the spine. You can feel it moved in behind the heart. Some people get caught there. Keep moving, let it move down. You want it to move down into the pelvic bowl and then out the feet. You don't want to get it all caught in the heart and get all mushy and gushy. It's beautiful, but it's adolescent. You want to be in the world. Why do we want to be in the world? Before we started, Faiza and I we were just sort of talking a little bit about Thanksgiving. I don't know how we got there, but we were saying something about understanding, I can't remember the context, understanding who we really are. People always want to know who they really are. They always want to know what their life's purpose is. What's my work? That's also developmental. I think it's safe to say that anybody that is on this particular Zoom call, your work is spiritual integration. That's your work. If you're on this call, everything else is a side gig. Everything. So if you're looking for your purpose, that's a head trip. It has nothing to do with the present. Take 5 breaths, get present, feel the buzz. Your life's purpose is to come home to who you are. A hint about who you are. If God forbid you got hit by that truck and you woke up a few minutes later by the side of the road with no memory of what your name is, where you live, who you are, no recollection of your family, your history, no story, you don't know where you are, who you are, what you are. You have no narratives. There's only one thing that you would be aware of, and that is that you exist. You would suddenly only know, I am aware. Nothing else. I am aware. You're suddenly like the goddess herself, a container, a womb of awareness. Nothing's in it. So who are we? Everything else is an add-on. Everything else will be added in and will be taken out. Added in, taken out. There are things that will be added in and that will persist with us right through the course of this particular life. And when we move from this particular life of 3 dimensions into another dimensional experience, which is a dimension in which physicality is not required. It is a dimensionality of awareness. Only awareness. We will still play in that awareness, but with an awareness that all of our play, everything that moves into our awareness is not who we are. Just allow yourselves to get a feel of that. We sort of have a little bit of it. We return to it at night. A dream experience. It happens at night when we're aware that we're dreaming. Every once in a while, we are lucid in the dream. Our purpose, it's not a proclamation of the purpose of people's lives in 3D, and that's not we who are on this call share, among other things, we share a common interest in putting Humpty Dumpty back together again. It will not happen by anybody outside. They will not do it. It is an inside job. And why is it an inside job? Because there's only one of us here. At night, when you suddenly wake up out of that dream, there's that kind of liminal moment. You're not quite awake in the morning. You're not quite asleep. And you suddenly realize, I dreamed this and I dreamed that and I saw this and I saw that and I met this one and I met that one. But I dreamed the whole thing. And then when I was in it, I peered out through like a little avatar, but everybody I met was also my creation. And the streets I walked on and the shoes I wore and the cars that went by, all my dream stuff, all me. So we have a sense that all these things come and go, but what does never comes and it never goes is the awareness, the consciousness itself. That's who we are. And suddenly there's no longer subject and object. We start to bring little bits of that awareness and that love into our day-to-day practice with our children, with our spouses, with bagging lunches when we get to do that again. Whoever thought that that would become a wish for me, that I want to be able to bag lunches again. When we bring a sense of just a little bit of, I am that, everything changes. Now I have a new chapter being written about what it means to be a lover. How do I respond to situations, things, and people who seem to be so subhuman, or at worst, or at best, so different, and share such different perspectives, and are in such conflict, and have such oppositional values. To speak personally, it just makes it a little more awkward for me to be judgmental about that. I can have a sense of perspective, but I understand that our journey is to re-enchant ourselves, to have a sense of the dreaminess of it all, and that I am the dreamer, and that you all, we're one consciousness. It's like looking at a diamond ring and getting all infatuated on one face, and you pull back, you realize, well, it has many faces. And then some breaths, so it doesn't become a whole concept. With the breaths, that feels more real. The tree outside my window, with some breaths, and this understanding that I am aware of it, it becomes more real. I'm less prone to put labels on it and slice it and dice it, which is what this is about. And now the thinking part becomes about, where's the keyhole? I need this to figure out where to put the key in the door, but not to make judgments, because you're making judgments. I'm the dreamer of the whole thing. I'm going to go to war with myself. It's like chewing my foot off. It begins to make subtle shifts in how we behave. And what does it do to our children? It never, ever has to be discussed. But with a few breaths every once in a while, and a sense of a reminder to the self, I am pure awareness and everything else is floating through like clouds in the sky. There is a frequency to that that our children pick up. And it is a tone of liberation. It will bring them to this same realization fast. You don't ever have to speak it. The world is one of energy and frequency, not of matter. So beginning to enchant, re-enchant, singing the song, being the song of oneness, of putting it back together again, is both the way home towards the purpose of our lives, and is a way to be like a Pied Piper and have people who we love, particularly the children, who are much more open and sensitive. They have less guarding, psychological guarding. They're open to these frequencies, and they take them on. It's a harmonic. They take them on. Anybody that understands music understands you play a tone. People naturally are drawn to the harmonic of it. You hit a piano key, and everything else on the soundboard will vibrate. I said a lot. I don't want to over speak.
You know, you said everything that we did say before we went live, that we would flow. We would go with the moment, and whatever's coming through is what would come through. Thank you for that. I want to take you back just a little bit to this moment that we're all in right now. We're in the middle of a pandemic. We're in the middle of a racial awakening. We're in the middle of a interesting political situation. And with all of that, I think rewatching the movie Milton's Secret was strangely, even though this was 4 years ago, strangely, it is so reminiscent of right now. You've got the parents in a situation where they're fighting, worried about their jobs. You've got little Milton worried about school and bullies. Then you realize there's Grandpa Howard, who I can assure you every parent, actually globally, not just in the US right now, is wishing they had their own Grandpa Howard. So rewatching that with my children was actually a very nice experience, because we were able to look into what many parents struggle to teach their children, which is self-regulation. And, you know, we're bombarding our children with school, with stress and sports, you name it, the external is all they can get from us. And then we send them to school and we say, here, you go deal with the world. And we've stripped them of who they are in the process. What inspired you to create Milton's Secret? And as you answer that, I would love to hear your own journey of becoming a freelancer and how you, using your own words, how you cut the anchor and embraced the life of a freelancer. So how can we parent from a place of raising freelancers when we ourselves are becoming or hoping to go back to being freelancers? And how do we deal with stress? Because this movie couldn't have been coming back to this group at a better time.
I just love that question, so thank you. I thought as a boy, and then as a adolescent and a teenager, and then a young adult, and then a adult, and then a grown-up, but still not a spiritual being. but somebody who understood a lot of the concepts as a head trip, spiritual concepts. I thought that if I just did it right, if I got it right, if I taught my daughter and I did the right things, and if I did the right stuff and modeled it, and if I explained things well, and if I held up certain values in terms of discipline, and I thought that that would be a path, would offer her a path to success in life. And one day, I realized that I have a lot of personal challenge and lots of fears and lots of anxieties and lots of self-judgment and lots of self-criticism and whole lots of imposter syndrome. And I mean, just the everything you can think of, I had. And then I had this thought, oh, then I also had one which makes me laugh. I hope. I had this one that, a story that I was very loving and unconditionally loving. I thought I love that whole unconditional loving thing. And then I realized I was only unconditionally loving as long as other people, particularly my family, behaved in exactly a way that was aligned with how I wanted them to. You know, it never occurred to me to be able to say, I give you permission to be different than me and not lose my love. That would have been like from an alien from another planet. So I understood suddenly. I was trying to correct all kinds of behaviors and be controlling. I was just trying to be controlling. And that was really about trying to offload my own narcissism into the lives of others. I was only loving and only accepting, and my standards of what was good behavior that was only when I was looking into other people, but really looking into the mirror. And that upset me. That upset me so much that I did not speak for a year. I just thought that I thought my thoughts and my feelings and my opinions and my belief system, and that none of it is original with me. It was all imported by other people. Now, I don't suggest this as that was also a childish behavior. So I don't suggest that in any manner, shape, or form. But what I do suggest is, I suggest, that it's helpful for people to ask themselves where all of their values came from. Where do all my opinions come from? Where do all my decisions come from? Where do my convictions come from? Not to say they're good or bad, just some of them are wonderful, but where do they come from? And then I had to admit that none of them were born, I didn't birth any of them. So I decided to be quiet because I didn't have an original thing to say. Again, I don't suggest that. It's childish. I don't suggest that at all. I wasn't a full mute. I just didn't engage. I would drive my kid to school and, people would try to get into a conversation. I would go like that and leave, and, so I understood that I was not leading an original life. And I wanted to take stock of where my conditioning came from. And I wanted to hang on to what was working. And I wanted to understand that my behaviors, I just wanted to be a good boy. I wanted to do it right. And so I decided to set that aside. And I also decided that I would be kind to myself. I decided I would notice which of my behaviors were original to me. With me, as I said, none. And then I would started to notice, and then what was original with me was now I'm picking and choosing. I was curating I was curating my values. I was suddenly like a little museum curator. This is generational. This one goes back to Abraham. This one is like, so I started to curate my values more and more. You know, it's a long process, but it's amazing. You do a couple little things and the impact is amazing. And I noticed that my family, my daughter, everybody just chilled out. I was no longer projecting to the same degree. I was no longer projecting my own consciousness on others and seeking to have it reflected back. And so I began to have like an internal mantra: I give you permission to be different than me without losing my love. That's a big one. It's not what you do that I love, it's who you are.
Yes.
And I began to treat myself in that way, so that my self-acceptance was not conditioned upon certain behaviors. I didn't have to jump through hoops to have compassion for myself. And I would say, you know, any little boy or girl who has come through life in this world with parents and teachers and schools and education and values and religious systems and all the inputs, any little boy or girl is going to they're going to grow as a product of their conditioning. Any little boy or girl, there's no getting away from that. And being the best little boy or girl or the worst, that's just a part of it. If I can't be the best, I'll be the worst. At least I'll stand out. That's also part of it. So I had an understanding of that, and I gave myself permission to love myself and to understand those choices. And then out of that, you begin to understand others. Any little boy or girl is seeking connection, is seeking a group, is seeking a tribe, is seeking family. You know, terrorists, they have a brotherhood. I get it. They're psychotic, but they have a brotherhood. You know, they're all looking for. And I also discovered that it doesn't require that we do anything. We can do a lot less. It requires that we understand and have compassion and love for self first. I can't love another person anymore or any more effectively than I love myself. I cannot give loving messages to my children, to my friends, to my community that are more empowered and make them feel safer, more seen, more heard, more understood, more accepted, that reduce their fear of anxiety, their fear of shame, their fear of being pushed away, that contributes to their sense of well-being, to their sense of pleasure, emotionally, mentally, physically, where and how appropriate. I can't be, those are all ingredients of what it is to be a loving person, and I can't express love to another more than I have learned how to integrate it for myself. And so I thought I got to a point on this journey where I thought, I'll make a movie about it. And most of this stuff will just go right by. But the energy of it won't. The energy of it will persist. So I made it 4 years ago, and it came out 4 years ago, and it did like so. You know, it was considered soft, and people wanted more in your face. You know, I made a movie without conflict. So, because I thought all the conflict is inside. I have more than enough conflict going on inside that I don't need to get distracted. So I thought, well, what if I make a movie about everybody dealing with their own internal conflicts? That is what a transformation is. When you deal with your own internal dissonance. And what happens outside is not my business, even though I'm the creator of it. I'm only the creator of it at a certain level. I'm the creator of it when I am reactive to it out of my psychology. Psychology is the cat's cradle of the scaffolding that I build of strategies that are based on if then, this hurts, so I'll do that. This hurts, this feels good, so I'll do this. And it's a logic and reason game that builds narratives. That is the stuff of being in this physical world. That's how we play the game, logic and reason, and if then, called psychology. And when we become intimate enough with our patterns, close and tender with those patterns, so we go, any little boy or girl would put it together like that. Now I have a whole nother ability to be a lover of people. I don't have to take them home. I understand you're psycho, but I understand why you're psycho. So I thought I'd make a movie about it. And I thought I would make a movie in that the main force for change is Donald, who is an old warrior, an old soldier whose heart broke after trying to fight the fight, and was a bad parent, and probably a bad husband. And eventually old colleagues and comrades fell either on the battlefield or to old age, and eventually his heart broke and something beautiful emerged. And he stopped trying to tell people how to be. Even when they came to him in the movie and wanted him to tell them how to be, he wouldn't tell anybody how to be. He had no problem saying, "You're an asshole," to his son-in-law. He didn't tell him how to change it. He just said, "Do you know that you're wreaking havoc in the house? Sit with that." He didn't lay his stuff on anyone. He didn't lay his stuff on the boy. He saw him. So the boy knew he was not alone, and it changes the boy's life forever. And that's not just movie stuff. That is how it works. You only need one person in your life that loves themselves more than they love you. And anybody that says you should love another more than you love yourself is either singing a country western song or is sentimental in an unhealthy way. That's not how it works. We see dissonance in our families. It's started here. The fix of it is go away, be in silence for an afternoon with a journal, and see what you're running. Love yourself, recognize it, acknowledge it, forgive it, love yourself. You aren't bad for it. Notice the part that wants to make you bad for it. Self-nurture that part. Any little boy or girl who came through what you came through would have put it together that way.
Amazing. That's wonderful.
So that's the answer to the question.
Thank you. And what a beautiful answer. I can feel it. You know, it's all about the energy. And as you explain it, I can imagine everyone in this video nodding with me, smiling. We were with you every moment. And it truly brings home, I don't know if it's Milton that says it, but there's a quote that's been shared among the community quite often, which is, let your heart make sense of what your mind cannot figure out. And I'm right there with you. So I want to segue into, since we still, you know, we have this nice energy and a feeling that I don't want to let go of, if you will, I'd love to segue into this moment. And we had talked offline a little bit about it as well. We have this pandemic going, and we're all painfully aware of all the painful realities that have unfolded. Before the pandemic, you lost your own home in a fire before the pandemic. So these problems have been going on for a while, but this has especially been an intricate year where people have lost their lives, people have lost their jobs. A lot of us are very fortunate to shelter at home and sure, not see our family, but we get to be home. But for most of the people on this call, a lot of them are getting uncomfortable right now. And the reason they're getting uncomfortable is something I know you are very passionate about. How can we meet this moment, Barnet? How do we not just focus on what's not working, but how do we meet the moment along with its challenges, with everything that it's throwing at us? But how do we meet this moment and meet ourselves and really challenge ourselves to meet our authentic self, to get out of, like when I wrote to you, I said, this is 2020, I have nothing to lose. So how do we meet this moment in our best self and really tap into our authentic selves and not truly die with our dreams within us? How can we foster that creativity and say, no more sheep mentality, no more status quo? You know, fear is within, but fear and liberation are both an inside job. Mm-hmm. At least that's been my experience. How can we inspire people and at least focus on meeting our best selves and taking that risk? I know we need to be secure. I know we need to dot all our I's and cross our T's and do all the traditional stuff. But I got this feeling that this moment is demanding for us to fully wake up and embrace who we are. And you've written about it, but I'd love for you to, you wrote about it before the pandemic, actually. So how do we get our creativity flowing? How do we meet our authentic selves? And how do we not wait for tomorrow because it's not guaranteed?
So I can share how I pursue those ambitions. They are ambitions. First of all, around creativity, nothing uncreative exists. There's only creativity. Creativity is love's work. Nothing else is going on. If you're alive, you're creating. You may not like what you're creating, but you're creating. And you're creating because you always get what you want in life. You don't always get what you ask for, but you always get what you want. And what you want is not always beautiful. What you want is what filters through that complex of thought and choice and decision and action and feeling and belief. It's a matrix, and what we put out that we say we want gets distorted like a bonsai tree through that. So I don't want to oversimplify it by saying by using an example, and because what happens often is people look at their lives. For example, my house burned down in the Malibu fire. So I had a part of me actually said, well, what belief system was I? And then I thought, that is a child's spirituality. It's not a punishment. It's not, oh, I did. That's that same, you did it wrong, you didn't do a good enough thing. So the first thing is to be aware that, yes, we generate, I hate this word. I hate this word, but I'm going to use it. This manifestation stuff. It repulses me. But there is a scintilla of truth to it. We create our own reality. That's true. 100%. That's true. We create it through our imagination, our desire, and our expectation. Those are the raw materials. And then the tools we use on those, like chisels and a hammer on a sculpture, is thought and choice and belief and decision and attitude and feeling. All that's true. But another way to say it is that's what psychology is. And when we do entry level but critical spiritual work, it begins with psychological understanding. I understand where my damage was and where I made certain choices and why I keep going back to the same beliefs. I understand it. Enough. Enough. Not perfectly. You don't want to make a life out of looking under every rock. Enough. And when you get that you create your own reality 100%, it's because it's like a prism and the light of all possibility shines through it. And by the time you're finished with your prism, you got like 5 colors. Every possibility shines through and you end up with a Crayola pack with 6 crayons in there. When you really get that that's how it works, and you really get you're creating the events of your life 100%, when you get it, you don't. When you get it, you're no longer the creator of your reality. Suddenly you are now spacious and humility. You have enough spaciousness and understanding of self and humility to allow forces of love beyond you. Higher self. It's a crowded path, spirituality. It's crowded. And all these wonderful loving forces, they all attend at the boundary at the edge of my psychology. They don't intrude, they don't rob us of free, they wait at the edge of our reality for us to just go, I fold, it's enough. Not from a victim place, from an understanding place. I get it, I understand, I am a controller, I'm stopping. Then they rush in and you are no longer the creator of your reality. Now you're on a joyride. You're a co-creator at that point. So to back up a little bit, a technique that I use to remind myself on a daily basis, it's a tradition that is in many, many, many esoteric spiritual practices. Many, many, many. Sometimes called the chapels perilous. Sometimes it's called the bridges of something. You know, I call it the narrows. So I see myself going down a hall, a long hall. Imagine yourself walking down a hallway with a lot of doors on either side. And you're on your way towards something that you would love. Well-being, a beautiful relationship, fulfillment of some kind, something that you dearly, dearly love, that dearly matters to you. Health. You're walking toward it. And as you approach it, up comes, yeah, but. Yeah, but, yeah, but, yeah, but, yeah, but, yeah, but. Yeah, but you're not enough. I'd like to write this book. Yeah, but you can't write. Yeah, but you don't have this. Yeah, but all the yeah buts, all the yeah buts. And then you're aware, so the doors start swinging open. In this door is like endless septic tank of yeah buts. The idea is to know what those yeah buts are, but not to go in the door. You look in, you know what they are. You go, I've been in there before. I don't really need to go back in there again. You continue down the hall. I am moving towards the most loving relationship ever. Yeah, but another door. And you pay attention to it, but you don't go in there. And you allow yourself to, you're feeling the feelings without going into it. You're not denying it. Oh, here, this is coming up. Oh, now this is coming up. And you keep going down, and there will be no shortage of yabbats. And if there is a shortage of yabbat, that too is a yabbat. It's called numbness, and that's also a strategy. Oh, I'm doing numbness again. Door flies open. Yeah, here's the numb room. Yabbit, 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 yabbit. You pay attention to the yabbits, but you don't get in there and ride that horse around, because we've all ridden those horses around for years. You're moving down the narrows and you're aware of all the yabbats. You keep moving, moving, moving to the end of the hall. And at the end of the hall is a door facing this way. And you get to the end of the hall, you open the door and you feel the feelings of what you're after. You've earned it by that point. It's called the narrows. What does the narrows do? The narrows refreshes you. It brings to your conscious awareness all of your conditioned, your memory bank, your hard drive, your file cabinet of constrictions and resistances and judgments of self. Brings them forward. And you feel them a little bit, but you don't get on board with them. You don't let them ride you around, and you just acknowledge them. The door closes again, you keep moving. And you are building a muscle of resilience. You're becoming close and tender with shadow parts of yourself. You're not denying them. You're not pretending they're not there. You're just saying, I am aware of you and I am not climbing on board.
Yeah.
That will change your life.
No more yeah buts.
So when we are dealing with the challenge of being in socially isolated, and take it to the narrows, to the hall. Just take it to that long corridor. I feel, I feel lonely. I feel angry. I feel like a victim. I feel enraged. I feel what is coming up? Because everything that's coming up is a old, as a child or a young person or an adolescent, mostly, occasionally a young adult, but it's usually stuff before the age of 12. It's a trigger that reminds me of when I lost the dog, when I lost the love of my grandmother, when I felt I missed Christmas, when I felt there is always something from the past that is being brought up. You don't really have to even know exactly what it is. Sometimes you'll know what it is in the narrows, but you don't have to know. You just have to know, oh, it's like, oh, poor me. I feel sorry for myself. Well, that's a new one. When did that ever happen before? So you just become aware of it, and you move to the end of the hall, and the end of the hall is your own personal sense of well-being. Your personal sense of well-being. And that will move you into a different experience of the lockdown. And it will also create a place for others. And yeah, I do this every day because it becomes quick. It becomes really fast. And also, I think, Danuka, I think you asked, consciousness and awareness are the same thing. Or maybe it was Stacy. Somebody asked, is consciousness and awareness the same thing? They are. But consciousness has become a buzzword.
Yes.
Like manifestation.
I'm going to say manifestation from now on, every time we interact.
Because it's so about me. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's developmental. There is a point at which it's like freedom. It's very much the same as freedom. There's freedom from, and then there's freedom to. And they're both equally valuable and valid, but one is more empowered than the other. But you can't just jump to freedom too. So, for example, the whole mask thing. Well, I'm a free American person. That's true. And it's developmental. So it's not like nobody's bad for that kind of behavior. But eventually you integrate and you realize, I am interested in again, when we go back to, you take 5 breaths, you're buzzing, and you realize I am awareness. I am one with the whole thing. Then I'm interested in the well-being of we, not me. Yes, me too. But my consciousness is the whole thing. I want to expand my consciousness so that I am lucid of myself as I am sometimes in a dream. And I want to be realized. I want to know that everything I can think of, smell, see, touch, taste, feel, imagine, remember, futurize, that is all me. At that point, I am very much more focused on, well, I'll wear a mask because I don't want to harm me. A version of me that doesn't know that I'm me. In the Jesus story, forgive them, they know not what they do. They're me. So, I'm not sure how I got off on that part, but
It's still hit home. It's still hit home. I'm looking at the time. Do we still have time? If we do, I can take a couple of questions. How are you feeling?
I'm good until until the quarter hour mark.
Perfect. I think that can, allow us to have a couple of questions. But before I do that, what do you have coming up for you? What can they look forward to that's coming out for you soon? Future projects?
Future projects. Let's see, I'll be socially isolating for the foreseeable future. I will be meditating and streaming love. I will be meditating and walking through areas that are afflicted and conflicted and sucking it up. Like a vacuum cleaner, sucking it up. What else will I be doing? I will be manifesting good things for the all of us.
You said it.
Yeah, I said it in a very considered way. When manifesting gets reframed so that it's about how can I contribute to the we and not the me, then I will be all over manifesting. The 7 steps to getting more parking spaces or whatever it is. I mean, it's important. It's very important because it's only on the back of that you can learn enough technique to be a giver. The secret around that is, however good people get around that, when you suddenly switch into being a giver, it goes into like really high, it just goes off the rails. Basically, the most you can ever learn when you're just feeding your small self, you know, there's minor success there. When it gets turned around to feeding the larger self, all that other consciousness that waits at the edge of your reality kicks in. So you're no longer doing it solo. Let's do some questions. How is it being in Eckhart's presence? Fun. He's fun.
That's a good one.
We
Anyone?
laugh. I like his laugh. Me too. I love his laugh. He's fun. He's a sweet, lovely, beautiful man.
Absolutely. Let's see. Is that Lindsay? Lindsay, you want to unmute and ask it?
Yes, sorry. I get used to the chat. For those who, I jokingly say, suffer with empathy with what's going on around us in the world, politically, etc. You know, is there a great tool, a simple tool like the Narrows to kind of process this empathy? Because it can be debilitating.
Yes, yes. So the Narrows, there's lots and lots and lots of tools for that. But the Narrows is, since we talked about it, it's a great tool. You go down and, you know, there is empathy, and then there is identification. So we want to be able to relate so that we are not closed-hearted and vain and separated. We want to be connected. That's compassion. Empathy is not even the right word here. It's about compassion, which is an active caring for another or others, born out of our personal suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the reason that young children or teenagers, they can have beautiful qualities about them and kindness, but they have no compassion. Because it takes a maturity to have compassion. You have to have had suffering.
Right.
And again, you know, I understand there are many people in the spiritual community who are averse to suffering. I don't have suffering. My whole life is about love and flowers and butterflies. And then there is no ability to have empathy or compassion for another, because eventually this is the Jesus story, but you know, it's misunderstood and perverted, you know, with cross imagery and martyred imagery. There's no martyr to it. It's eventually you become aware of yourself as the dreamer of the whole thing, and you lift to the degree that we can in meditation walk through a hospital bed ward with people who are suffering and suck the pain out of it.
Mhm.
Literally suck the pain up. And you know, it's not pleasant. I promise you, it's not pleasant. It doesn't feel good. But again, in the Jesus story, I use it, I teach with it because it's so familiar to people. You know, that's what the suffer the little children thing was. It's not about little street urchins being cute on Easter. It's not about that at all. It's about you bring me your pain because I understand the truer nature of it and I can hold it. It won't hurt me. So I can suck it in. It doesn't feel good, but it's not going to kill me. And then I can release it. And don't think that that doesn't work because there is only one, it's all imagination. There's nothing else going on but imagination. There's only imagination. There's nothing else. That is the common sense. Everything is an organized structure of energy that we call our narrative, we call our story, we call it our ego. So somebody that is more realized has the capacity and the ability to interact with those energy systems and relieve some of the pain. So that's important. Empathy, be careful, just, you know, be careful, Lindsay, of empathy. Go to compassion. I understand what you're carrying. And then if it turns into a seduction into pain that you can't get out of, that is moving, that's not just standing in the door, that's going into the door, that's going into the whole wing. And you want to develop a muscle. It's not bad, it's just not helpful. It's not helpful to you, and it's not helpful to the large of you, the we of you. You want to be able to develop a muscle so you recognize, oh, here I go again. You're going down the hall. Here I go again. The door slams open. Come on in, Lindsay. You want to recognize it and move past it. And then you can have compassion and active caring. And what do you do when I say active? Active means an action. What do you do to take action? Well, you can, in a meditation, you can alleviate some of their suffering. You don't actually have to go down and do it physically. It's at the level that you're operating, it's more powerful to do it internally than it is to go down in the street. Is that helpful?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. I think we're coming up to just after 10:15.
Great.
And we're going to have to end it there because we're running out of time.
We are. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us. For everyone still here with me, this is the book I'm reading right now. It is Barnet's The Book of Doing and Being. It's not actually surprising to me. They always say when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And this book appeared now to me. And it couldn't have come at a better time. So check it out. I know that you're working on a lot of projects that you'll produce to the world at some point when that allows. Just want to finish with how grateful I am to have shared this space with you and to have shared it with all of you as our guests today. I hope this was useful. I hope you all take something away. I've taken a lot away. I may have to rewatch this. But thank you so much. We wish you and your family well.
Thank you.
Stay safe and shelter safe and well. And we're here as a community. We're here from afar for all of you.
You're all so beautiful and wonderful. And I feel so at home in the community. So thank you so much.
Thank you. We look forward to having you here in person.
I can't wait. I'm looking forward to that. Plus, I always like Miami.
Absolutely, whenever that is. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. I send you all with love. Have a good night.